Our wonderful state is a hotbed of bee biodiversity. So what makes Utah so special when it comes to bees?
When most people think of bees, they think of the honeybee. But the honeybee is just one of an estimated 20,000 bees worldwide. Honeybees may get most of the attention, but there are over 1,100 species of bees in Utah alone. With so much variety, there are endless opportunities to view bees in Utah, and some are as close as your very own backyard.
Utah has a lot of species of bees, and as scientists, we're not exactly sure why there's so many here, but it's partly because the diversity of Utah. Utah has a bunch of different landscapes. We have the desert down in southern Utah, a different kind of desert out in western Utah. We have the high mountains and we have the foothills and all these different landscapes. And each of these landscapes can house a different kind of bee. So Utah's diversity kind of helps promote the diversity of bees here.
Joseph Wilson, biology professor at Utah State University in Tooele, is co-author to one of the most popular books on the subject of bees. The Bees in Your Backyard, written together with bee researcher Olivia Carroll, has furthered a mission to educate people about bees and get people thinking beyond simply honeybees and bumblebees.
I guess there's two misconceptions that people usually have about bees. One is they think that the wasps in their backyard are bees. So you're having a barbecue and something that's yellow and buzzes comes and tries to take your hamburger or tries to land on your plate, and everyone says, it's bees, I hate those bees. But those are actually wasps.
The biggest differences between bees and wasps is that bees are herbivores and wasps are carnivores. It can be hard to tell the difference between bees and wasps. In general, wasps have less hair and have more slender bodies. Bees usually look hairier and have thicker legs.
The other misconception is people have an idea in their mind about what bees are, and these ideas they have are usually not true for most of the bees. For example, bees make honey. In Utah, one of the 1,100 species makes honey, and it's not from Utah, it's from Europe.
Another misconception about bees is where they live. About 75% of bees in the United States live in the ground, not in hives.
So a female bee will dig a hole in the ground and she'll bring pollen and nectar into that hole, and that's where she'll lay her eggs. So she works by herself. There's no queen, there's no hive, there's no honey, anything like that.
And the females live alone in their hole. The males sleep under the stars, usually in the petals of flowers or at the foot of flower stalks, always nearby. The bees that don't live in hives or in dirt are called cavity nesting bees, and they make a home in the trees, abandoned beetle burrows, or hollowed wood, all things that can be found in a typical Utah backyard.
So we're down here in southern Utah in Hurricane. We're out looking at how we can make our yards attractive to native bees. And this yard right here is a great example of what we can do to attract and promote native bee diversity in our yards.
To find bees in your backyard, look for their food source, flowers.
As adults, they mostly drink nectar, kind of like their energy drink. That's why we see them on flowers drinking. And they eat pollen for their protein. So the pollen is their protein bar, the nectar is their energy drink. And so they collect pollen, they bring it back on their legs or on their belly, they bring it back in their nest and they spit up some nectar on it and make kind of a little cake. We call it a pollen cake. They stick that in the bottom of their nest and lay an egg on it. And so that's the food for their baby.
Most ground bees live only 1 year, and most of that life is underground, eating pollen cake and surviving the winter as a cocoon. When a bee emerges, it begins flying around, visiting flowers, repeating the cycle, and living only another month or so depending on the species.
Bees generally are active during banker's hours, some about 9 in the morning till about 5 in the afternoon. In northern Utah, they'll start being active maybe mid-April all the way through October. In southern Utah, it'll be a little bit earlier where the spring starts earlier, maybe from March through October. But Utah's unique in that it has two peaks of two bee seasons. In spring, you get a lot of kinds of bees, like the middle of May is peak time for bee diversity in the spring. And then again, in August, you get a bunch of different flowers that come out in August, and you get a bunch of different kinds of bees.
Don't go away, more Utopia after a message from our sponsors.